In the previous workshop video, I left the wood storage cart built off at the base frames, and I've dreaded and avoided editing this video ever since. Because it's a whopper, and I'm pretty swamped doing other things. Anyway, where were we? Oh yes, we have two 120 by 60 storage carts clammed together into a 240 by 60 centimeter cart with about 63 to 64 centimeters in height, if memory serves. And now it's time to give this contraption its top storage so it can at last fulfill its destiny. This bit here is 2.4 meters, the whole thing, which is of course the length of my two carts combined. And I'm going to have this little tower here. I'll probably only go with 3 compartments, so that gives me a 90 centimeter height on top of the 60 for the base construction, of course. So that gives me an overall height of 1.5 meters. I'm going to start at 90 centimeters and slope it down to 60. So there should still be enough support to lean full-size plywood sheets, and that should give me like varying depth bins to put some odd lengths of timber, anywhere from 40 centimeters to about, let's say, a meter, 110, 120. So that's going to be 5 bins there, 3 compartments tall. And this here will be the side view. These the bins, the tower in the back, and then kind of like a slope. Some more compartments here, hopefully. PVC pipes and stuff like that. That can go in there. And then lean plywood sheets against that slide, probably like 10-degree slope, something like that. So I think what I'm going to start with is the biggest plywood sheet, the one that is kind of the vertical one that's going to sit at the back of both the slope and the bins, as this one here. So that will have a height of 90. Of course, it will have a rectangular cut here, and then slope down towards 60 in the back. A bit of a complex cut, I wager, but I already have an idea for that. I'll probably best start on this side. This measuring tape is on its way out. If I leave it here like that, it just doesn't hold the tape anymore. So I'm guessing this little lock nub here is gone. So 90 is there. The compartments, like the vertical compartments and the bins, they will all have 30 centers. So I need to go 90 degree from this edge, 30 centimeters in. Make a mark here, and that will then start my diagonal slope towards the 60 down there. This is why you want all of your stuff, all of your gear, all of your tools to have a home where you can always find them. Anyway. So, 40 centimeter sliding square, just a tool for the job. And there's the damn pencil line, and of course I've made a mistake, because this sheet here is 240 long. I'm going to have 6 compartments, or 5 compartments, and the vertical overall, so that's 6. 24 divided by 6 is 4, therefore it shouldn't be 30 wide, it should be 40. 40, so I need to do this again. Anyway, it should be a quick enough fix. All I'm going to use now is a speed square, because if anything it should give me a 90-degree angle. I'm just going to eyeball 10 centimeters. Cutting this is really gonna suck, especially where the lines converge. It's gonna be hard to make out which one's which and to keep the cut straight. Well, I brought this on myself, didn't I? Something essential that I need to do in order to have accurate or somewhat accurate measurements for the narrow shelves between the vertical, I guess, wall and the slope one. Somehow I think I don't have the capability to calculate this all, so I'm just going to make a mock-up and take measurements off of it. So this is the length of the vertical wall. That's going to sit on my bottom trolleys. And now, so this is the side that would face into that little triangular space. And now I'm just going to take 10 centimeters at the bottom, because that's what I want the distance to be. And I've used masking tape so I don't have to scribble on the actual wood here. Right. I'll go in somewhere like that. I think that should be that. So now, what I can do is, let's say if I want to have that narrow little shelf sit 20 centimeters up from the bottom, I can now measure 20 centimeters on my mock-up, and then measure the distance here between my pieces of plywood, and this happens to be 8.5 centimeters. At least that's the theory. So now that I have my measurements written down, I guess it's time to move on and get on with putting this vertical wall on here. Before I do that though, I have to dispense with this temporary clamping solution and really get those benches connected in a more permanent fashion. And the way I want to do that is with these, I think these are M10 or 10mm diameter bolts. Of course these washers that they came with are way too tiny. I need something that can distribute the mechanical force a little bit better. So I was thinking I'm going to go with these guys. I think they are M10 as well. They are. Okay, well that's a relief. I have 4 bolts, so I need 8 of these. That's 4. There's another 4. Alright, that should be that. Now my idea is to go with 2 bolts through the top and the same through the bottom. Now the question is, once I have those in place and I want to dismantle this whole thing, or maybe keep one, lose the other, is it easy enough for me to get to the bolts? Yeah, I could comfortably still reach them and unscrew them with a ratchet whilst holding the other one in place. Turns out I was mistaken. The bolts that I have aren't M10, they're M12. I'm going to go with this 12mm spade. I just have to hope that I make them straight enough. there is an argument to make these holes maybe somewhere between 2 and 4 mil wider than the bolts are, to allow for some play and for some unevenness in the floor. But I actually want this surface here to be as plain and level as possible because of the top construction that's going on it. Oh, and now to find out whether I'm strong enough to ride these two things at once, because one of them is already plenty heavy. Two of these, quite the ball ache. Easier than I thought. That's a bonus. Nice. I'm almost happy with that. Okay, time for some maths and measurements. So I've now removed the masking tape because I have the measurements written down. What's important is that I went with 10.3 millimeters between the two bits of plywood. So that's 10.3 millimeters plus 2 depths of plywood. That is another 1.8 and 1.8, so that's 3.6. So that yields me 13.9 centimeters. So that's from the outside of one sheet of plywood, triangular space in between to the outside of the other. Now this here is 49.3. 49.3 minus 13.9 is 35.4. So at 35.4, that's where I need to make a mark on the outsides here. Draw a straight line between them, and that's where the vertical plywood board is going to sit. Straight, distinct line there that I can absolutely work with. And since I have that line, which is continuous from one end point to another, so there shouldn't be any reason for me to keep this board in one piece now. I'm gonna cut it straight down the middle before I fix it on here. Now I've got this board cut in two. Really clean job, if I may say so myself. And I decided to flip this thing around, so I'm going to have my shelves on this side sticking into the room rather than facing the workbench, simply so that I have the tool side here to fix stuff on. I think that makes more sense. Now I'm going to fix this onto my bottom construction with pocket holes. Yes, pocket holes. The universally despised solution, and a bead of wood adhesive for just that little bit more grip. The pocket holes I'm going to put at 20 centimeter intervals. For the sides and for the middle I'm going to use either 6 or 8 centimeter wood screws and drill them and screw them all the way down into the timber. For all the other ones, 4 centimeter screws. They're just going to get anchored in the plywood sheet. And speaking of pocket hole jigs, I've got the cheapest of all cheap available options. That's Wolfcraft of Amazon. I'm fully aware that by placing these speed squares here, I am absolutely blocking myself from putting in those end pocket screws, but I can put the other ones in. So here's where I am with this stuff. Plywood sheet, my pencil line is here, and then it cups quite significantly there. That's 1/2 centimeter before it curves back onto the line there. So that presents a bit of a challenge. Hopefully not too much of one. I might try and move this speed square in just a little bit to free up that pocket hole. Drive that in and then push against this plywood sheet from the other side. Screw that in then. Alternatively, bring out the middle to the line, drill in the middle screw, and then push these guys in out from here and drive those screws in, and then fill in the ones in between. One of these two options. Now for the middle, and once I have that on the line, I think the rest should hopefully be that much easier to do. I should remember this for next time. Vacuum those pocket holes out. There's a lot of debris down there. Now this side here is going to take some persuading. But we did get there in the end. Excellent. I expected this to be a lot more difficult. Nice. Now for the other side. Now this side is slightly different. Because I can't clamp around this side here, obviously because that board's there, I think I'm going with a slightly different way of fixing this in place. But here's the way. I'm just going to use two little cut-offs of plywood. An actual real F-clamp, not one of those crappy speed clamps. Come on. One bit on either side here, where the boards meet, or the sheets or whatever. And clamp that in place, so that at least it has some sort of stability. And then move the bottom, move that towards the line in its final position. Actually, something I didn't do earlier, which I should have probably done, is to just stick all the screws into these pocket holes already, so that they're sitting there ready to go. I don't have to whip back and forth to get more screws. I just put them all in there. This is probably something that any carpenter will just nod very tiredly and think, yep, congratulations for figuring that out. But I'm not a carpenter, am I? Just an absolute amateur, reinventing the wheel most of the time, and badly, if I may add. So that's the backbone, sort of this wood storage cart. I'm going to put in the bins first, or at least some of those sidewalls that will make the bins, just to stabilize this sheet. Whenever I decide I don't need this anymore. Hello, cat. Now, shall we let you in, I wonder? Why not? Come in then. Come in, you scoundrel. Probably going to go upstairs anyway. Now, for the bins, what do I need? So I want the side walls to sit against here, and then the front wall to sit against the side wall. So I need the measurement from here to this edge minus the thickness of the plywood sheet. And I could just measure this whole thing minus 18 mil, but measurement is one, real life is quite another thing. So I'm just going to put that plywood sheet there, and we'll measure just how far that actually is. And that is 33.6. And if I'm not mistaken, that is not what I had calculated, because I guess I work with perfect zero pencil lines, like perfect zero markers, and real life is always a bit different, isn't it? Hello. Please don't get all dirty with sawdust. But don't jump on the workbench. Hello. What, you feeling lonely? No, noisy more like. Don't go up there. That's dangerous. Mister. I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but he's got a really loud purr, which is why the shelter that we got him from named him Diesel. Not going to get much work done with you being here, eh? It's just so damn cute and cuddly. That's your brother. That's your brother. Probably snoozing somewhere. Now, are you going to leave me to my work, mister? Are you going to leave me to my work? Not bloody likely, is it? Now, of course, I have the depth for my compartments. I still need to work out the heights because, of course, this is on a slope. And the easiest way that I can think of to figure that out is to put down some markers, as usual. So I want my bins to be 40 centimeters wide. Of course, I have my 40 markers here, 80, so I can work off of these for the pocket screws. I'm just going to use my T-square and measure 90 degrees up. That's the center. So those are the centers for the partition walls. And by centers means the middle of the compartment plywood board that goes against it is that. So it's 9 millimeters to either side of that marker line. It is 66.6. Ooh, 666. Right. This is the bit of plywood that's going to sit here in the end. Two shafts here, one that sits at the top. There's a rough impression of what the shaft size is going to be. There's a whole lot of pocket holes that need to be drilled. A little more close-up and personal look of this side partition here. There's 3 pocket holes down there. I don't know why I put so many into the side, but I reckon it can't hurt. Again, pocket holes there, where this thing is going to screw into the back panel. So now I have to figure out, probably have to flip this over and screw the sideboard onto this, and then transfer everything to the storage card. It would look something like this. I've already marked the center line here. Well, it's not really center in terms of the center between the two cards. When I put in these dividers here, put a little pencil mark here, one there, and also mark up here where my 10-degree chamfer is going to be, and then I can connect those, make the cut, and that's going to be the fall between the back panel and the front panel. I'm going to do that for each one because, again, these are at different falls. The angle here of this diagonal cut is not going to be the same for any of these pieces. But I think, just in terms of giving it overall stability, I'm going to go with these guys here in the middle. Simply because they are going to give a strong center enforcement for the whole structure overall. I want to connect these two, probably with a machine screw and an insert nut to supplement whatever kind of like force the four bolts in the bottom construction already have, and continue this up here so that there's no wobble between the top bits. It's done. No, it's not. What I did do, however, was get most of these positions in. Not this one yet. These guys I want to be able to kind of screw together with insert nuts and machine screws, following the overall concept of being able to just divide this wood storage card into two smaller ones. I can start screwing these guys in. Now, I've used the biggest drill bit to widen these holes that I had. Still, this is still quite a lot thicker or wider than these holes are. So I hope I'm not just completely destroying this sheet by forcing them in there. Okay, that works. But I need more torque. A lot more torque. The rim here sits better in the wood and doesn't stick out too much. It's only a millimeter or thereabouts, but when two pieces of plywood are meant to sit really flush against another, and that can make quite the difference. Do anything like this per hand? Flush enough, I guess. No, I'm sure. Complete overkill, absolutely unnecessary. But if anything, I can always go with the excuse, I feel better doing this. And the battery's gone. Now these screws have these wafer head sort of tops, so they should sit or put quite some pressure against the sheet here, but I still feel better using some washers as well, just to increase that area a little bit. And if I've not made any mistakes drilling these holes and putting in the insert nuts, this should now screw into the nut quite nicely. Yep, and that seems to be the case. Now the reason why I'm doing these first is, well, I measured these guys out and they should fit nicely, and then I can put in all the pocket screws and secure this bit here into the frame or the body. If I had done that first, put in the pocket screws, then this may have pulled the sheet out of its intended position, and then these screws may not have fit anymore. So far so good. Now some of these do stick out a little bit, like by 3 mil maybe. I guess that's what eye measure, using eye measure gets me. I just may use a hacksaw blade and try and cut that down a little bit more. And speaking of pocket screws, I think that time has come now. I'm trying to put this bit here together. Alright, and that is this side done. So now I can concentrate on the other, where the big sheets are going to go. Right, and now this side. The battery died, because of course it did, and I only have the one. So in the meantime, I've got the first shelf on the side. That's going to be the full sheet storage. Got the first shelf done. 8.5 centimeters on the lower side, and the cut here, camera probably does not pick it up. This is chamfered to 10 degrees and then fixed into the back there with these pocket holes. And just so that I knew that the height was good, I've just put these timber blocks underneath, and they're all cut to 20 centimeters or 200 mils. And now I have another mark at the 40 centimeter, measured from here, mark there. Oh, hello little guest. What are you up to? Back outside then. So these are the blocks that I cut down, and I've also cut and chamfered this top bit here, and instead of 10 degrees I whittled it down to 5, which fits the angle a lot better, because if I take just some spare plywood, put it down near the marker where the back plate is going to sit, or the back panel rather, then that is a very, very perfect fit. That works quite beautifully. I was briefly thinking about routing out some, I guess, some holes to access these shelves, but I think that would decrease the overall stability of the back panel, and I think that's more important to me. So for the moment, I'll leave them closed. I'm just gonna make some pocket holes, and then I can screw them into their position as well. And I think that's as far as I'll push it tonight, because I'm getting tired again, and I don't want to end up making mistakes. It really is time to get this finished. I'm going to go with a full size sheet that I'm going to cut in half. Yeah, something like that. Seems to be sitting pretty nicely on that tabletop there. Of course, it's sticking out a bit there because the sheet is 122 and the cart is only 120. Angle looks good. Of course, the sheet is a bit warped, so there's going to be some gaps there, but that can be sorted. And I have this original machined edge on this side where I wanted. Not too far off the mark there. I allowed 3 centimeters, and that is definitely less. So now I've got the ends trimmed. I got a little too carried away, so now I have a bit of a gap here between them. But that's fine. Doesn't really matter all that much, does it? I've also trimmed this bit here off, so it's now more or less aligned with the top of my shelf situation. The thing that I haven't sorted yet is the slope here. It's still quite wavy from where I just rough cut it with the circular saw. So now I'm trying to figure out how to make that a nice straight cut that is in line with the slope of the center panel here. So I can see it from here. I have this sliding ruler here, and just try and push the damn thing down a little bit more. Yep, until my sliding ruler says it's now on the level. The sliding ruler is happy on both ends. Trace it with a pencil. Just taken back off. I mean, they're only very loosely standing on there now. Cut them, either table saw with a track saw. Put some pocket holes into the bottom edge and fix them in place, and done. Back panel is slightly better cut into shape, and now I'm just fixing the bottom in first with the pocket hole screws that I have. And what I want to make sure of is that backrest is always at the same distance from this edge here. So I'm just using this 4x2 cutoff, clamp that down close to where the screw is. And then screw that in position. Okay, that's done. Now, to screw these panels into these small shelves in the back. So I guess what I want to be doing now is to just mark off just the lower edge of where those shelves are. And the important bit is that I have that pencil mark on the big side of these panels. Quickly going to do the same on the other side. And now I'm just going to lift my 3-meter beam level up here. So that the upper edge of this beam level now sits right under my pencil marks. Clamp the big panel into the structure as a whole. And that really only is just so that it can't go anywhere, it doesn't wobble. And this way I don't have to do any pencil marks, because I know that if I go 1 centimeter above the edge of my beam level, that's where the shelf sits on the back. Now I'll probably at some stage have to insert spacers along the upper edge, just to keep the panels from bowing inwards under the pressure of the plywood sheets that are of course going to end up here, so they're going to be considerably taller, even if they're lying down, than this backrest here. And that means I'll have to stabilize the sheet, because otherwise that'll be about, this looks like 30-40 centimeters that this thing here is unsupported at its upper edge. And it's not something that I necessarily want. That I'll need to cut out of some smaller bits. It's not going to be a continuous one, because obviously because this bit here is taller, so it meets a little further up. That means the distance up here between the two sheets is smaller than, for example, is down there. So making a continuous sheet with a mitered edge, like the 5 degrees again, to accommodate this sheet, and I don't know, what is this here, 5-6 centimeters here, 3 up there, it's just too much of a task. That's more precision work than I can be bothered with. So I'm just going to do some single blocks, small ones, and then we'll probably screw them or nail them in at intervals and call it a day. Put one of these spacers in here, distancer or whatever. Given that a quick miter there on that saw, because it's 4.3 centimeters here and 4 centimeters there, it wedged in pretty perfectly. Like it won't even budge if I tap it with the finger. So I'm just going to nail that in place. I guess the back panel here for the sheet storage comes up, I think, about 0.5 centimeter, so 5 mil higher or taller than this, but it's fine. I don't care all that much. Can't see it with the naked eye. And now that I know that this technique works, I'm just going to do, I don't know, one down the far end, one in the middle. Same here, so 4 more with the custom measurements for each spot. Quickly nail them in place, and then I think that's it. I'm not quite sure where I left things off, but it is done. Now we have it. Long timber storage, 2.4 meters or 8 foot. At the bottom, that should fit 30, was it 30? I think 30 4x2s of 2.4 meters length. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really deep bins up here. And then of course my shelf storage that is 40 centimeters deep and 40 across as well, 30 up. There's quite a bit of storage on that side. I've got these 2 long compartments here that will be good for pipes, whether they're copper pipes or PVC pipes, they can go in here. And for those nasty curved ones I have over in that corner, I might be able to fit them into this compartment here, since it's open at the top, and I can weave those things in there. Same for pipe legging. And on the back side of this, my full sheet storage, and the notch here, I don't know if I've touched on it, I may not have, is essentially so I can use this the sheet carrier. Just go in here, hook under a full-size sheet and just tilt it over and carry it like this. It's the best way, and also makes loading sheets onto here, or should make it easier, to be tested in practice, I guess. And yep, that is it. Quite happy with how that came out, and now to light it up. Now, as I said, I have to put this theory into practice. One thing I'm noticing, I need a lot more room to maneuver. That's something to keep in mind. Other than that, this is very nice. Move that in a little bit. Yeah. Well, these sheets do tend to be a little bit curved. I guess as more and more are being added, then their combined weight would probably straighten them out and push them further in. I don't think though that I'll be getting many more of these today. It's fairly stormy out, and this is like a sail in these weather conditions, and it's not fun carrying them over from the house. So I'll leave that for another and hopefully less windy day. But if I do say so myself, that notch down there, that's been worth the trouble that I've had coming up with a solution for it. Absolutely worth it. And that's the reason why I didn't go for a full support for a plywood sheet like this, simply because of how high it is, how tall it is. There's me next to it and I'm 2 meters. So now that I've pushed this, the cart in, where it is pretty much going to live from here on out. This is its permanent spot. And once I've moved the table saw in here, then it really becomes quite clear that this workshop isn't all that big. I mean, it's a 5.5 by 3 meter workspace, so that's not a whole lot. Granted, everything is on casters, precisely so that I can move stuff out of the way and can move where I need to be. Also, of course, this is mobile, so anytime I have to get to the plywood sheets in the back, I can move it out of the corner, angle it into the room to make access to the plywood easier. But generally, the space is getting small. But overall, I'm still happy with where I've got